Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for coming to join us for a little bit to learn about Poll Everywhere. I'm not sure everybody's understanding or current use with Poll Everywhere, but kind of hope today I don't really have anything structured, but I hope to go through a little bit about how I use it, give you some examples and kind of show you what it looks like on the interface and how to do a few different things. And then at the end, show just kind of their screen on the info and what all is included on the free account, which is what I'm currently using. But certainly any questions that you have as we go throughout, or I imagine we'll have plenty of time at the end to, if you have questions or if you're using it as well, and have different ways that you're using it that might be helpful to share, please feel free to interrupt at any point with any of those. So again, we're talking about Poll Everywhere today. It's something that I've been using for probably a couple of years now. I don't know that I am really even still understanding or using the full extent of it. So kind of just showing you a little bit about how I currently use it for my first year seminar class. So I teach a first year seminar class, usually a section in the intersession in the fall, and then an 8-week section face-to-face in the fall and the spring as well. But I also use it when I give presentations or trainings to get feedback that way as well. So let me jump in. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. And I'm going to start with my course page. So this is my course page for first year seminar. And the way that I currently use it, so throughout the 8-week period, we really kind of have individual focus on new or different content each week. So the way that I try to use this is to have a poll of the week. And I usually post this on the course page right after we're done with class, to introduce the next week's topic. So getting feedback from them on a particular question. And then that usually is used as kind of an icebreaker for the beginning of the next class. Saying, okay, it looks like this is how most of you responded, and that a lot of time leads the direction of the discussion or how much time we spend on certain things in the next class period. So for example, if we go back to week 1, it was something very basic, very simple. Is this your first week of college class? So just introducing the idea that this is a first year seminar class. You're not alone if this is your first week. In fact, it's quite common. So that illustrates that. But as we get into content on like time management or stress and anxiety, and then major and careers exploration, it's a little bit more content based. So again, just getting some feedback from the students, but also so that they can see how other students are responding or kind of understand the pulse of the class. So that if they're feeling stressed out or short on time, they again maybe know that they're not alone, or they can identify with some other people in the class. So what I do again is at the end of each class period, I'll say, hey, make sure that before next class you participate in the poll. I'll put it up after class. And then sometimes I do need to prompt them the following class when we first start. I'll check to see if there's been participation. And if not, I'll usually start the class with, if you haven't responded to the poll, just jump on the course page to do that really quickly. So the way I've used it here is I'm embedding it into the course page. So they can, it appears to them like this. I have 2 different portlets. So one is the current poll where you can actively participate. And then I have the results embedded in here too, so that you can see your response calculated live. So for me, for example, we've already done this one earlier this week, but if I'm participating, I would click false, and then you can see it calculated right away. So they can see that in real time to know that their input is getting put in. And then also if everybody hasn't participated and we start the class this way to get everybody kind of on the same page, we can see how things are changing in real time. So again, I kind of use it as a discussion starter for each week. This particular class, this 8-week section, course page that you see here is face-to-face. So I don't use it a lot with this group in the actual class period. I have it kind of set up here to be done outside of class and then as a guide for our discussion to get started the next period. But I have in other classes, depending on the dynamic of the group, sometimes if I have closer to 20 students and I have 3 or 4 really dominant participants in discussion and 15 people who aren't participating as much, this is a good way to allow them to give some input that maybe they otherwise wouldn't feel comfortable putting in. So you can kind of adjust it to the class as well, depending on the dynamic that you have. So any questions on any of that so far?
Yeah, I do.
Sure.
So I'm assuming this is some sort of web-based something that you have an account for.
Yep.
Because I've never heard of it before, but so like if your student logged in there and that you have your week 6 participation poll and they selected their answer and I saw it update in real time, if they go off of this page and come back to this page, tomorrow, is their answer still logged? I mean, like, will they know, like, could they select an answer again, I guess is what I'm asking.
So those are good questions. So try to answer that a couple different ways. One is you have the ability to either respond anonymously as a guest or to create an account to track your responses. The other thing is if you're using the same computer, your computer is likely, unless you've refreshed or cleared a cache or something like that, it's probably going to remember that you've already responded. I know when I use the same computers to put in a response, it remembers that from one time to the next. So if they're using the same computer, that's likely true. But if they responded at home and then came to campus and was in the TLC, it's not going to necessarily remember unless they're logging in to their account to do it. There are also, and I'll show you a little bit more on the back side of it as well, but there are some controls that you have so you can limit the number of responses per participant too. I usually don't really set any limits, but there are a number of settings that you can adjust. So let me kind of flip over now to, does that answer your question though, Dee? That makes sense? Okay. So yes, it is web-based. I created a free account a number of years ago, and to this point, I've seen no need to switch to any paid account, but there are some options for that. Mine is tied to my Gmail address, so you can also log in through Google. So if you're on a device where you're already logged in to your Google already, like mine is on my phone, then it can recognize you, or you can sign in that way as well. When you come to the home page, it kind of just gives you I'm not real keen of the way that this is laid out, because it just shows what you've done recently here, and then it gives your overall activity response URL. But if you go into the activities center here on the left, it shows anything that you have that you've created and have saved. So you can see I have a couple of folders here. I have one for first year seminar. I have one for presentations that I've given for advising. And then I have a couple here that are currently not in a folder that have been created more recently, but you can add a folder at any time and move things in. So if I created a new folder for this club, you're just selecting where you want it to go. And so you have that ability to kind of organize it that way too. But the most of my use is in first year seminar. So these are some things that I've asked before. I kind of rotate these in and out depending on what we're talking about. But you can edit some settings. So let's go into, let's try this one. So this is an example when we're talking about research for papers, and we're talking about the Chapman Online Library. Before we get to that, I usually ask them, what resources have you used in the past to find information if you're needing to find something. So this is an example of a different kind of poll that you can use, a word cloud. They have a few different options on the free that you can select from. And you can see there's some things here. So if you want, you can lock it. So if you want to close the responses, for example, and not allow any more submissions, you can lock it that way. Again, I don't really have any need, or haven't seen a need to do that, but you have that ability to lock or unlock. You also have the ability to clear responses. So if you want to clear the responses and start over, all that you would have to do is that, and it slowly is kind of wiping the slate clean there, looks like. For some reason it kept a couple. I think it's still waiting for a new response to come in. But when you go into the settings over here, this is where you can control a little bit about how you want them to be able to engage. So there's audience restriction. This is where you can say, I don't really care. Maybe completely anonymous is fine. Maybe you want them to use a screen name. I currently don't tie it to a grade in any way, so I usually leave it anonymous, or allow everyone with no restriction to kind of put in as many responses as they want. And this is where you can control how many responses. So if you wanted to allow everybody to put in their top 2, for example, they could report that way as well. You can allow them to change their answer or to not allow them to change. So again, depending on how you would use this in a class setting, if you do want to tie it to a grade, then you might have them create an account or a screen name that they can tie it to, or not allow changes after it's submitted, or lock it after a certain time period. That's really up to you, but you do have the ability to do some of those things and to moderate it to a certain extent. Another thing that you have to be careful of is once you've created one, you have to make sure that it's activated. So I run into this sometimes where after I've created a poll, I still haven't turned it on, essentially. So they'll get in there and they'll say, well, I clicked on it, but it's not letting me do anything. That's where you'd have to click to activate it first. And then they have the ability to, they can either text following the instructions here, or they can type in this web address, and either will give them options to participate. Or if you've embedded it into your course page, they can participate from there. So that seems to be, especially when I have them in class face-to-face, that seems to be an easier way for them to get to that. But I've had people use it all of these different ways. So let's create a new one here, and I'll show you a little bit about what options do exist. So if we go back to activities here, and we want to click the plus button to create a new activity, there's actually quite a few, and I believe that all of these are available for the free version. I've used multiple choice, word cloud, Q&A. You can do open-ended questions. There's all kinds of different examples. I've used this emotion scale. So that's this one over here, where you can kind of rank how you feel about something generally. But if you're wanting to just do something simple, you could create it pretty quickly. All right, so I've already created it. I'm going to click activate. And then if you want to try to participate, you can. You can either type in that web address or use the text method. So we've already got one person responding. So that was pretty quick. That didn't take long at all to weigh in on that one. So I know I had some people in the chat initially too that said no, that they hadn't heard of it. So not surprised by that. I know there's different things that we're already using. I was talking with Maggie a little bit before we started, like with Screencast-O-Matic and Zoom have abilities to poll and things like that. I just find this easier for what I've been using it for already, to kind of have this as a separate option to manage and embed things like that. All right, so if I wanted to, for example, I could lock this now and say, okay, the polling is closed. You can deactivate it as well. Let's say for example, though, that I wanted to embed this. So if I were wanting to embed this into a class, the next step would look like this. You would just go to send, and then there's the share and embed. And you have options to share and embed the response link, or you can do the presentation view. So on my example, I'm doing both. So for the current week, this is the presentation link view that's embedded, and then this is the presentation page. So I currently have both for the current week, and then I've just archived kind of any of the past ones. I don't have the live option to weigh in once that week has ended. I take that off. But if I wanted to add this to poll results, I could just do edit content here, add a new element. And then click embed. You got to go find the source code though here. So if you click the copy embed script and then paste that in. This is the default size. Because I have it over in the sidebar, I always adjust that to make it fit a little bit better. And click save. So then if I go back to my course page, I haven't rearranged it yet, so it goes here at the bottom, but that's how I posted in the course page. So I could see this being helpful for an online class too, as a way to get participation or just feedback from your students, to get understanding on an assignment. Could be used in that way as well. So I'm gonna delete that so as not to create any more confusion. Any new questions or anything you're thinking of at this point? I think I've gone through a lot of things on my checklist here. The one thing that I did want to share too is just this screen here. So you can get this by going to Poll Everywhere. It's just the layout of the different plans. So the higher ed free account, which I'm currently using, you have unlimited questions. So I can create as many of those polls as I would like. The limit comes in at the audience size, but that's per poll. So even when I've presented at conferences, the attendance has usually been less than 40. So again, I've not even run into any issues with something like that. You're not getting any of these things down here, but again, I've not had any desire for any of those things presently anyway. So based on our class sizes and a lot of our presentation sizes here, or like I said, when I've gone to conferences to present, this 40 has not been a barrier by any means. So, and then as far as integration, the way that I integrate it. I just illustrated that through embed code, and that seems to work pretty well. So I think that's all that I had. It's just kind of a walkthrough, but if you have any other questions or want to try to do something else and play around with it while we're on the call here, just let me know. We can try something new. Let me see if I missed anything here.
I want to know how you got the little face emoji things for the feelings scale.
Yeah. So that's an area that I really haven't played a lot with, is all of these different options here. Like I said, I've used 3 or 4 of these pretty much exclusively, but yeah, if we wanted to do the emotion scale is what it's called, is, you know, like what you could say something like that. And then just hit create. Like if you're just wanting to get feedback on a particular assignment, and then when they respond, they click anywhere on this screen, and so it just shows where they clicked. So I don't think that it necessarily ties you to a particular area of the screen. It's just pinpoints the exact place that they clicked on the screen. So it's pretty simple to create, but again, I have not played around much with all of the other options. I think I'm kind of the tip of the iceberg there. I use word cloud a lot just to kind of get general feedback on more open-ended questions. But you can do clickable images, like where have you visited in the world, or that's where you kind of have the scale there as well. I'm not even sure what some of these are, but they sound fun.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm happy, like, if you have any questions about if you've created one and you want help embedding it or anything like that, I can certainly help.
So,
Well.
I may have missed it, but like the
Mhm.
students need to create accounts in order to participate, or
They do not. They can do it as a guest. So I think on mine.
so when I went in through the text message portion, it made me sign in. And so I had to sign up for an account. But if we do it here on the embed, I guess you wouldn't need to do that. It's only whenever you are using the texting portion.
Possibly, I haven't myself submitted as the text method, but you can see, like, when I responded here, it just put me as guest 830.
Okay, cool.
So I don't know if I'm answering that question well. I would think that there's still a way to text anonymously though, without creating an account. Because I know when I've done this at a conference, I don't think everybody had to create an account. I think they could pretty simply just text. Did it give you an option when you sent the first text on?
No, not that I could figure out. It said that I was either a presenter or a participant, and then it was like, sign up. So it didn't have, but that may just be because it's going through the text.
Maybe. I'm curious to know if we did, if it's the text only that does that, or let me try.
Now, I did it through the text, but you had already closed it, Kyle, so it just says, you know, I texted my answer and it just says this poll is now closed. So it let me answer it without signing up.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Jen said she used the link and it didn't require any sign up. So I'm not sure why the text in one instance prompted that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you shouldn't be required to. I've not had any students ask me that anyway, but I think a lot of them again are using the course page while we're in the
Yeah.
computer lab there to do that.
Awesome.
Any other questions?
Okay, so you are using the embedded script for the response link versus the live presentation, right?
I use both. So the live, the response link is this one here. So the current poll of the week, I have the response link so they can participate. But then the presentation view is kind of the published results view. That's also here. So you can see week 6 has the response link embed and the presentation results embedded. So I use both.
Okay,
But once that week has passed, I take the live response link down and put up the new one only.
right. Well, I just like the every week when students come in, first thing I asked, I want on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you feeling about, just life in general? So I get a feel for, are they all like overwhelmed and exhausted and
Yeah.
know ahead of time everything I'm going to tell them is going to go over their head? Or are they at least doing okay and hanging in there so that I feel like if they get glazed over, I'm the one pushing them over the edge versus they started there. You know what I mean?
Right. No, that's good. Yeah, just kind of like, are you guys already saturated and none of this is going to stick, or are you in a place where we're going to be able to make some good progress? So that's a good idea. I could certainly see you using that scale. I don't know. It doesn't look like you can edit the number of options in that range.
Yeah, no, but this is good enough. I mean, it just
Right.
gives me a range of like, I am really don't even want to be here, but I'm here to,
Mhm.
I'm good. I'm doing all right,
Yeah,
And
and it looks like you can upload your own image. So if you go out and search an image that you want to use for that you like better, you could do that. Or I haven't even thought of it, but like for content related questions, like if you were teaching A&P, for example, you could just, what part of the body is this located, and see if they're just completely off to start with. But there's all kinds of options, I think, on that one. I don't know if any of these other ones allow you to upload images or if it's just the emotion scale one. It's the only one I've seen that has done that. Oh, I guess you can upload images there. I guess that's available on each one. So yeah, you could put images as response options too, it looks like, as well as in the question.
Awesome.
Yeah, for what you can do with a free account, I've been really pleased with how it's worked with class. But
That's
I'm also curious to hear if any of you begin to use it in other ways. Please share that back.
Well, I'm gonna try it this coming week, and I'm gonna put the emoji thing in although I use Google Slides to present the in-class content and have them use Pear Deck where they have to type in responses. I don't know if I could completely switch and have them use this version.
So I noticed just in the calendar invite that Maggie sent out that it mentioned something about working well with Google Slides. I've not tried to embed it in a PowerPoint or Google Slides or anything like that, but it looked like just from that little blurb that she included in the calendar invite for today's session that it had that ability to just plug that in there. So if you have a set of slides and you want them to, as they're reviewing that, participate in the poll, I think you can embed that in there that way if you'd rather do that than somewhere on the course page.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I usually start off class, and I've been using this extension really of Google Slides called Pear Deck. Like if I they're supposed to have read certain content and then they come in class, and instead of just listening to me ramble on and on, periodically I just throw in a question that hopefully should be an easy question, and they're logged into a site where they're it allows me to see their responses anonymously on this, and I can show them on the screen. I can review really quickly what their responses were and be like, okay, they're way off, so we really need to talk about this topic really in depth, or oh wow, they've really got the concepts. I can just kind of mention it and I can move on, instead of spending 10 minutes talking about something that they've already got, you know. So I kind of like using that, but I could see, I don't know if I could use this as a complete replacement or just working with both of them together.
Mhm.
Well, we are at time, so I did want to say thank you so much, Kyle, for bringing this. I've never investigated Poll Everywhere, so I am now going to be using it in my classes. So thank you. Now I'm probably going to spend another hour playing with it to see all the different things it does. If you guys come up with cool things that you use in your classes, please let us know. Please share that with us. And maybe I can highlight it in our weekly updates or something like that. But like I said, I'm going to put this recording out on our YouTube channel. So if you need to access it later, you can have access to it. And thank you so much for coming and spending your time with us. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Thanks, Kyle.